Everyone in Willow Creek used to whisper her name as if it carried danger on its tongue. Clara Mae, the girl with the storm in her eyes and the fire in her spirit. She rode horses like they were born out of her own soul, she laughed too loud for polite company, and she spoke her mind when men expected silence. Mothers warned their sons not to be taken in by her charm, and fathers shook their heads when she walked past with her wild hair and untamed heart. Too wild to wed, they said, as if her freedom was something shameful, as if a woman could not exist outside the mold of quiet obedience. Clara heard them all, and though it stung like a hidden thorn, she never showed it. She tossed her head, smirked at their judgment, and told herself she would never kneel to a man who saw her as less than the fire she carried inside. But at night, when the stars spread across the ranch sky and the world grew still, Clara's laughter faded. She lay awake in the little cabin she had inherited after her parents died too young, and she wondered if the world was right about her. Maybe she was too much, maybe her spirit was not meant for love. She had chased men away with her fierce tongue, refused the hands that wanted to cage her, and never allowed anyone to get too close. Yet the truth that lived buried beneath her pride was simple. She longed for a hand strong enough to hold hers, not to control her, but to steady her. A heart that would not fear her wildness but walk beside it. That secret longing was hers alone, hidden behind every fearless laugh she gave the world. It was during one dry summer when the grass cracked under the hooves of cattle and the air smelled of dust that a stranger rode into Willow Creek. His name was Colt Bennett, and though he tried to arrive without attention, the town noticed him. People always noticed wealth, and Colt carried it in the way he sat his stallion, in the fine stitching of his boots, and in the calm silence of a man who had nothing to prove. He had come from Texas with a pocket deep enough to buy land anywhere he wished, but what he sought was not more acres, nor more cattle. Colt carried secrets heavier than gold, secrets that had driven him away from the easy comfort of his family's estate. He wanted a place where no one knew the mistakes that haunted him. The first time Clara met him was not under polite circumstances. He had ridden near the edge of her land, looking for water, and she had caught him there, rifle in hand, eyes narrowed like a hawk. "You've got no business trespassing," she told him, her voice sharp as a whip. Colt had dismounted slowly, raising his hands in mock surrender, a half-smile tugging at his mouth. "Just looking for a creek, ma'am. Didn't mean to trouble you." She looked him over, noticing the fine leather, the way he moved like a man who had spent years in the saddle but also carried a weight in his gaze. Something about him made her heart flicker against her will, but she masked it with scorn. "Plenty of water in town. You best head there," and with that, she turned her horse and left him standing in dust. Yet fate has a way of pulling two souls together, no matter how much they resist. Days later, Clara found herself in town, trading supplies. She heard the murmur before she saw him, ladies whispering about the rich cowboy who might buy up land, who might bring change to their quiet lives. Clara rolled her eyes, but when she stepped out of the store, she nearly collided with Colt. His hand steadied her elbow, his smile polite but warm. "We meet again," he said, and though she wanted to snap, to push him away, she felt something steady in his touch. Something she had not known she needed. Over the next weeks, Colt seemed to appear wherever she went, never imposing, but always present. He asked her about her horses, and she found herself talking longer than she meant to. He admired the way she worked her land, and she felt a strange pride rise in her chest. The town, however, began to whisper even louder. "That wild girl has her eyes on the rich man," they said, "but he won't stay. Men like him never do." Clara pretended not to care, yet every word echoed against the secret fear in her chest. She could not bear to let someone in, only to be abandoned. What she did not know was that Colt carried his own wounds. Years ago, he had loved a woman who loved only his fortune, not his soul. She had betrayed him in ways that cut so deep he swore never to trust again. He had built walls of silence and solitude, believing no woman could see the man beneath the wealth. But Clara was different. She did not fawn over his money. In fact, she treated him with suspicion because of it. She met him eye to eye, not as a man of riches, but as a man who had to prove his worth. That both stung and healed him. The more time they spent together, the more Clara's walls began to crack. One evening, he found her by the creek, her face soft with sorrow, and for the first time she spoke of her parents, of how their deaths had left her both free and lonely. "They called me wild even when I was a child," she whispered, her voice breaking. "But what they don't see is that wildness was just a way to hide the ache. If I keep running, no one can leave me. If I keep laughing, no one sees me cry." Colt said nothing at first, only reached for her hand. When she let him hold it, she realized how much she had longed for that steadiness. His voice was low, steady. "Maybe you're not too wild, Clara Mae. Maybe you've just been waiting for someone who isn't afraid of storms." That night changed them both. Clara found herself leaning into him more, trusting little by little. Colt began to dream of a future where his past no longer haunted him. Yet love, especially love born in secret pain, is never without trials. The town's whispers grew crueler. "She'll ruin him," they said. "She'll never be the wife a man like that deserves." Clara heard them, and though Colt swore he did not care, the poison of their words sank deep. She began to pull away, convincing herself she was protecting him. Better he leave now than one day regret choosing her. But Colt was not a man to surrender easily. One stormy night, when thunder rolled across the sky, he came to her cabin. Rain soaked him, but his eyes burned with determination. "You think you're protecting me," he said, voice fierce, "but don't you see, Clara? You're the only thing that's ever been real to me. Let them talk. Let the world judge. I don't want a tame woman, I want you. All of you." Her tears fell then, not from sorrow, but from the unbearable relief of being seen at last. They say love can tame the wild, but that was never the truth of Clara Mae. Colt did not cage her fire. He walked into it and found warmth. She did not become less of herself for him, she became more. Together, they built a life not free of hardship, but full of honesty. The town, in time, learned to hush its whispers when they saw how her laughter now carried not just defiance but joy, and how his steady hand never let hers go. And sometimes, when the night was quiet, Clara would rest her head on his chest and whisper the secret she had carried for so long. "They called me too wild to wed," she'd say with a soft smile. Colt would kiss her hair and answer, "And that's exactly why I married you. Because some hearts are not meant to be tamed. They are meant to be cherished, wild, free, and loved beyond measure."